can I do for you, Ron? You just tell me, what can I do for you?
It's a very personal, very important thing. Are you ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready, brother. Here it is. Show me the money.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it what you would mean it, brother. Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
No. Show you the money.
That's not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
All right. So there we go. There we go. Show me the money, guys. That's what I'm saying. Hold on. Let me get my headphones on here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this guy. Maybe. How's that look? Does that look all right? Turn my headphone jack on, which it's not going to work until I plug this guy in. So what's up, guys? Figured I'd do a little Facebook Live here. I had a couple people that recommended that maybe I should do a Facebook Live and explain the happenings of last night. My post. Some of you may have seen it. Some of you may have not. May have not. Yeah, I guess that's how you say it. But the post is gone now. I took it away. Essentially, let's open a beer real quick, guys. So we're going to open another Lagunitas daytime IPA. Can you hear that? I'll share a pour with you. Here we go. So yeah, a lot of people wanted to know what the post was about last night, and what the big uproar. God, I can't even say that word. Uproar. My tongue doesn't want to make that movement on the roar part of it. But daytime IPA. So yeah, what was this post about last night? Well, I posted. If you follow along on my personal page, I don't think I put it on the Craft Conversation page last night, but so I made a post out there and I tagged a few people in it. I probably shouldn't have tagged anybody. Now that I look back at it, I probably should have just, said, here's what I said. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but I said that musicians are getting screwed in Somerville, that they're not getting paid what they're worth. They're not getting paid a fair wage, a living wage, whatever you want to call the fucking kind of wage that they're doing, but that they're not getting treated fairly, that they're, I feel like, sometimes being taken advantage of. And some of these venues out there are paying them the least amount, which, come on. You're running a business. I guess you're going to get by with the least expenses you can have. Sure. But I feel like some of these venues out here, a lot of these venues, a majority of these venues are taking advantage of the musicians and not paying them what they're worth. Let's think about it. So let's just take, for instance, if you're going to do a 2-hour gig somewhere and that venue is going to pay you $50, okay? So if you're a solo artist, that's great. I mean, it's not fantastic, but it's pretty damn good, right? You're getting $25 an hour as a solo artist, but let's think about it. So you've got to get there pretty much an hour early. You got to get out there. You got to haul all your equipment in to the venue. Depending on where you park, that could be even more strenuous. You got to haul all your stuff in. You have to put it all together. You have to make sure it all works. You got to sound check. You got to do this stuff. So you've already spent an hour doing all that stuff. Now you've got a 2-hour gig. You got an hour gig. Sometimes these people play all through the hour or all through the 2 hours. Sometimes they'll take a break, 10, 15 minutes, in between sets. but a good majority of them just kind of play through, especially on a 2-hour show, right? And now what happens? Well, after that, now you've got to take everything down. You got to unplug everything. You got to disconnect it. You got to pack it all up. You got to carry it out to your car, depending on where your car is. So now really on a 2-hour show, and for a solo guy, maybe not so much time up front and on the back end of it, but regardless, 30 minutes maybe up front, 30 minutes on the back. So now you're talking an hour's worth of setup, takedown. You did a 2-hour show. So now you're dividing that $50 times 3 versus dividing it in half, which is $25 an hour, which by any means is a respectable wage, right? I mean, how many of us out there would love to be making $25 an hour if you're not, especially if you're in the food and bev business right now, or if you're a waiter, waitress, and you're making, whatever the minimum is plus some tips. But, even if you're making a living wage, what they consider a living wage, you're making $15 an hour. Well, that's a pretty damn good wage. But when you add in that extra hour to it, and then you do the math, not so much. Now, you take another band that's in there that's got 2 people, and now they've done the same thing. They've got more equipment, so maybe they spend an hour up front, hour on the back. So now they're talking about a 3-hour show divided between the 2 of them for the same venue that's paying you $50. Now you've got to split that 50 between the 2 of you, dividing it by 3 hours, maybe even 3.5 to 4 hours, depending on your setup and takedown. So not a whole lot of money. And that's just one example. There's some other venues there in town that pay, let's say a 3-hour show, $125. Not too shabby. But again, a lot of the people that will play that venue are duos. So now you're talking a duo. Now you're talking now you got a 3-hour show, divide 3 into 125. You've got a half an hour to an hour set up on the front and the back, plus your duo. So even $125 doesn't go a long ways, especially when you add a second person to the set. And then you've got the occasional, when you've got 3 and 4 members to a band. So basically what needs to happen at these venues, and I worked at a venue. I worked there at Homegrown Brew House. It's still there, 117 South Main Street. And, they're one of the places that I called out last night and I tagged in the post. I don't know. I'll go through and say it. I tagged Coastal Coffee Roasters. I tagged Wine and Tapas. I tagged Homegrown Brew House. I tagged a couple of Mana. And I think that was the only people I tagged. They were the people that came up. 3 of them are right there in the Hutchison Square, which is what I'm trying to talk about as far as the music scene. We need to get a Somerville music scene going. And the Square seems to be a good place to do it with off-the-chain sandwich shop. And you got Cup of Mana. You got Wine and Tapas. You got Homegrown Brew House. I don't think Montreux is opening back up again, so you're not going to have live music over there. They do some stuff there at Lacey's, I guess. A couple other places, maybe they're around the Square. But when you go down the road, the only person I could think of was Coastal Coffee Roasters, so I called them out in the post as well. And this isn't stuff that just comes off the top of my head. This isn't stuff that I'm just making up. I run a podcast, and I talk to a lot of these musicians on the show. I've had a lot of them sit right here across from me. I've got one coming in 2 days that is going to sit across from me. We're going to discuss this very subject, among other things. But, I'm not just not just talking about this stuff for my health. I'm not just talking about this stuff because I want to talk about it. I'm talking about it because people bring it up to me. And I ran the music there at Homegrown for the last 2 years. And I did take it over. I believe Mr. Fleming Moore was the one that was running that to begin with. And when I started working there and took over, I got asked to take over the music as well. So I've been doing that for 2 years. And I've talked to these people. I know the money that we paid. I'm not liking this light over here tonight. Anyway, we're not getting into that. But yeah. I noticed that we weren't paying these musicians that much. And, granted, now they're at Homegrown. I would give the bands a bar tab. I really didn't have a limit on the bar tab, to be honest with you, because I didn't think that many people were going to go, way crazy over this freaking limit and just drink tons of drinks all night. But I did give them bar tab, so you can add that into the mix, I guess. I mean, for sure. But then you got people like, well, I'm not going to name names, but the person that's coming in here Wednesday night that would be playing there Thursday, or one of the other regulars that played in there quite often. They don't drink. You know, they're on a 12-step program. They're in recovery. They're not drinking. So now they don't get to take advantage of that bar tab. And you can say, okay, well, that's not my fault. I didn't, make them not drink alcohol. So you can't blame me that they're not going to take advantage of the bar tab. Well, that's true as well. But here was my problem. Here was the reason that I made the post to begin with. And the reason was somebody has taken over the music there at Homegrown. Took it over immediately. And when I quit Homegrown, the first thing that was said to me by this person is, I will not play Homegrown again if you're not working there. And take a sip of this beer real quick. It's a Lagunitas daytime ale, by the way. The first thing that was said to me was, if you're not going to be there at Homegrown anymore, I'm not playing Homegrown anymore. Well, the very next day, they took over the music there at Homegrown, played, because the person that was supposed to play canceled, had something come up and they had to cancel. This person played there that night and actually played there 2 nights later on a Saturday night. So played there on a Thursday and a Saturday. So after telling me that if I was no longer at Homegrown Brewhouse, they were not going to play there anymore, they took over the music at Homegrown and played there twice within 3 days. A day after telling me that they wouldn't even play there ever again. So that's kind of started this whole thing. And then this gentleman decided that he wanted to bump a guy that was playing at the beginning of July, messaged me and asked me, what his contact information was, because he wanted to bump him to put XYZ person into that slot. Well, XYZ person, by no means, and I don't know their monetary situation. They could have filed bankruptcy last year, and maybe they're in debt up to their fucking ears, and I don't even know about it. So I don't know what their financial situation is, but I can only assume that this person does not need $75, and that's what the pay was for this particular night that they got bumped and took over. My assumption is this person by no means whatsoever needs or even wants that $75. So probably what's going to happen is that person is going to play for free, which is great. That's great for the venue. But you know what? That's not great for the local artists who are out there struggling, trying to make a living as an artist, as a musician. And this isn't just a side gig that they're doing and just trying to have a good time. They want to have a good time, obviously, but this is not this is not the gig that they're trying to make a living off of. So to bump an up-and-coming musician, early 20s, to bump them for your buddy, for your friend that does not need the gig, that you're just trying to, all of a sudden you've taken the venue back over and now you're trying to make sure that all your friends have a spot to play music, the Good Old Boys Club, which kind of, it's kind of ironic because we're doing a web series about the Good Old Boys Club and about the guys that are taking over the town of Somerville and running everything and just destroying the town, the nouveau carpetbaggers, as they're called. For that person to go in and actually start a nouveau carpetbagger club there at Homegrown Brewhouse is actually pretty hilarious. So anyway, I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this show tonight. I told a couple buddies of mine that wanted me to kind of explain the situation and put it out there. kind of as an emergency broadcast to let people know why there was such a big hubbub last night. And I mean, that thing blew up. I mean, I don't know how many comments there were on it when I woke up this morning. And I eventually just ended up deleting it because I told myself, I said, look, man, people have said everything they needed to say. And all the ideas have gotten out there, the rage, the information, the yelling, the back and forth. I didn't figure it was doing any good to leave that post up any longer than what I probably left it up too long to begin with. I almost deleted it last night, but I figured let's let it play out and let people express their emotions and their feelings. And damn it, my fucking thing fell down again. It fell down. It falls down every time now. So I got to figure out a better way to stick it up there. But so yeah, I took it down today and figured everybody had said what they had to say, and there was no need to keep that negativity out there any longer. And I hope it wasn't all negativity. A lot of it. The whole point of the post was to promote positivity and some change and some conversation and some talk to figure out how we better treat these local musicians in town. And hopefully that conversation has started and people are maybe thinking about a better way to do business. So that's all I got to say, guys. I just figured I would take a few minutes to explain, and I was going to actually look at some comments here, but I didn't want to turn this on and have the sound on. There we go, because it's going to be delayed. I meant to actually watch it and maybe answer some people's comments on here, but oh well. That's it, guys. I'm out of here. I'm cutting this thing off. Please love one another. Be good to each other. Have conversations about stuff that affects all of us. And I think that this is one of those conversations that we needed to have. That music, it's been said, makes the world go around. So anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Peace out. I love you. We'll talk to you soon.